It's pork lard rendering day. Come join me as I turn all of this pig fat into really awesome pork lard. Step 1 as we prepare to process all of this pig fat into pork lard is separating out our leaf lard from our back fat. Typically, butchers will label these appropriately for you so you'll know which is which. The leaf lard pigs grow around their organs, and it has almost no pig or pork or meat flavor to it at all, which makes it great for using in pastries. Then there's the back fat, and this back fat has a little bit of a pork or a meat flavor to it, so it's really useful in cooking, where you won't mind a little bit of that flavor, or you can also use it in soaps just fine. So once you have your fat divided into your 2 piles, it's time to grab the meat grinder. I always like to grind my leaf lard first, that way I don't accidentally lose track of it somewhere in this as I'm grinding away. And I always go ahead and grind straight into my pot that I'm gonna stick in the oven. So make sure it is oven safe, no plastic on it, so that you can stick it straight into the oven whenever you're done.
When rendering lard, you should always start by either grinding or finely chopping your fat pieces. By starting with super tiny pieces, you're going to cut your time down significantly, as well as end up with more finished lard at the end of the day. This is by far the most labor-intensive part of the whole process, so you can choose to skip it, but the rendering will probably end up taking twice as long for half as much lard. So if you have access to a meat grinder, it's well worth the effort to grind all of your fat. This meat grinder attachment for my stand mixer has become one of my favorite kitchen gadgets because it saves me so much time when I render lard, and I can grind my own ground meats now, which helps us use up some of those less popular cuts of meat that otherwise sit in the freezer forever. Once all of the fat has been ground, it's time to put it in the oven. This pork fat is going to stay in a 220-degree oven for several hours. It can range anywhere from 2 hours up to 10 or 12 if you're doing a large batch. Bigger pieces are going to need longer to melt down. Now let's talk about the science behind pork fat rendering. The goal when rendering fat is to remove all of the meat particles and moisture from the fat, turning it into purified fat, which is shelf stable. To do this, the fat must be heated high enough to fully melt and to evaporate the water out of the fat. High school science class taught me that water evaporates at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So we know we at least need to get it above 212 degrees. You could, of course, put it on the stove and crank up the heat, but the results would be, well, gross. At around 275 degrees, a very special thing called the Maillard reaction begins. This reaction is what occurs when we caramelize onions or sear meat. But it is very, very bad for rendering pork lard if your goal was minimal flavor and smell. So for the best pork lard, we need a minimum temperature of 212 degrees, and we absolutely cannot exceed 275 degrees. And the lower we stay on that spectrum, the less chance of strong flavors there will be. So set your oven for 220 degrees and check on it every couple of hours. When the temperature in the pot has exceeded 212 degrees, it's ready to go. Immediately pour your hot lard through a sieve to filter out anything that didn't melt, like little bits of meat. You can pour it into clean canning jars to keep on the shelf, or into silicone molds to freeze. I started my rendering day with about 50 pounds of fat trimmings. These were from our last 2 Meishon pigs that we had butchered. After rendering, I ended up with just over 5 gallons of lard. About 1 gallon of that was leaf lard, which I'm setting aside for making pie crust and other pastries this Christmas. The remaining 4 gallons of lard will go towards soap making. My family has converted to pork lard soap, and we don't ever plan to go back to store-bought soap. Our first winter without dry, cracking hands had me completely sold on lard soap. My jars are in various stages of cooling, so you can see how amber the lard is when it's hot, but it turns a beautiful white when cool.
Let me know how you're planning to use your pork lard. Are you making soap as well? Are you just planning to use it for cooking? Are you a baker and you plan to make pastries with it? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching.